Right. Welcome back to this edition of the Holy Huddle. Drew and Ethan are back at it again, and here's what we got.
Yes, we are back, and this is take two because I forgot to turn the live feature off.
We're not quite ready for that yet.
So if you see a live video thing pop up briefly,
just ignore it.
Please ignore it.
Please.
So sorry for that. Without further ado, let's get into it today.
Get into it.
With the NFL draft being relatively fresh, only happening like 2-3 weeks ago. That's a lot of the buzz right now. At least in the football world. What's a team's draft that really stood out to you?
Well, for me, when I looked at the draft, I really liked the Giants picking up Jackson Dart because, like we've said this a couple of times already, but I felt like Jackson Dart. Me and you kind of agree. Jackson Dart kind of brings stability to a team, and it's not often a quarterback takes Ole Miss back-to-back 10-win seasons. And, there has to be, for the offense, there has to be buy-in. You don't just win 10 games or 11 games in the SEC with complete buy-in. And so I felt like Jackson Dart really, his leadership grew each year, and his passing numbers were unbelievable. When he wants to run the ball too, he's very effective. And I just think he brings, because, the Giants have had quarterback issues the past couple of years, whether it was due to injury or just lack of consistency. And so I think he's a stable guy that they can lean on, I feel like.
And come to think of it, he's actually going to be sitting behind Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
More than likely.
Yeah.
Is what it's looking like. And I really appreciate the Giants for going out and making a power move. They got Abdul Carter. They got a quarterback. They even drafted one of the first players to come out of my high school in the 7th round. So wow. I totally think they won the draft, in my complete and honest opinion. They got Cam Skattebo.
Yeah, they did. They did get Cam Skattebo.
They drafted a lot of well-known names.
Well, man, the Giants haven't had a quarterback room. You have a starter in Russell Wilson, and then you have Jackson Dart at the backup position to learn.
Jameis Winston's in that QB room too.
Yeah. That's not a bad QB room at all. So I would say that's a pretty good win for them.
All people with starting level experience. So that's interesting.
And they got one of the best pass rushers in all of college football, in Abdul Carter.
The best defensive player in the draft, probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So no, I really like them picking Jackson Dart, and I think he's going to do well when he gets his opportunity.
And a draft that really stuck out and it sort of flew under the radar was the Cowboys draft class. They drafted a guard at 14. They got the ACC Defensive Player of the Year in the 2nd round. And they just continued to add on.
Wow.
And especially with the acquisition of George Pickens now, the draft looks phenomenal.
Right. Well, yeah, they did pick up George Pickens. That was the only concern I have about that is he finally going to grow up and, start acting like a guy who wants to be out there, rather than just try and fight people all the time.
Yeah, and even then, another great pick that we made was a DB from East Carolina, Shavon Revel Jr., who's one of the top-rated corners coming out of East Carolina.
Yeah.
By PFF.
Well, going back to Jackson Dart, last year, the guy threw for 4,279 yards. I think he threw 29 touchdown passes and only had 6 picks last year. That's only last year. That's pretty good. That's really good.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, let me read to you the DB that the Cowboys drafted in the 3rd round. He had a really high grade. He had an 84 grade, which means he's the elite of the elite.
Wow.
And then we got Jaden Blue, who's, I think better running backs could have been selected there at the 5th round pick.
Yeah.
Shamar James from Florida, Phil Maffa from Clemson, just to name a few notable names. But I think the Cowboys nailed this draft class.
Yeah, I'm sure they would have wanted to get Genty, but they've always been a big offensive line.
And I have to look at this draft. The Cleveland Browns had probably one of the most confusing draft classes out of everybody.
Mr. Shedeur Sanders.
And they drafted Dillon Gabriel as well.
Yeah, that's quite the contrast.
Yeah. But they had a good draft from what it looked like. They got Mason Graham at 5, which was a solid pick. Carson Schweistinger, couldn't pronounce that name. Quinn Harold Fannin, Dylan Sampson.
Man, that's a good running back class right there.
they drafted 2 running backs and 2 quarterbacks, which confused me a lot. But I
Dylan,
think the Browns did a decent job besides taking 2 quarterbacks.
Dylan Sampson, man. Dylan Sampson and Judkins on the same team. That's interesting. Wow. Well, and Shador and Gabriel got both picked by the Browns. That's gonna be it. That's definitely gonna be an interesting one.
Yeah. And sort of looking back at this whole thing with the Shador Sanders process, Derek Carr retired, so the Saints are just kicking themselves. They got a 26-year-old quarterback rookie who's going to be starting for them more than likely. Hopefully, this doesn't turn out to be another Brandon Weeden situation.
Brandon Weeden.
That's a blast from the past.
That's funny.
But yeah, I think the Saints missed on that Shador Sanders pick. They could have had their franchise guy. He would have gotten thrown into the fire immediately, but he would have developed. And now the Browns are going to have to develop him who, I mean, let's be honest. When you go to the Browns, it's QB purgatory. You're not going to succeed there. I
mean, most of the time there you get, fleshed in or fleshed out, and then, you have to just kind of restart again.
It's kind of, I mean, it's under better management, I think, in my opinion, now than it was a couple of years ago when they went 0-16.
Yeah.
Their coaching's a whole lot better, so I like to see the direction they're going in with their first 2 picks being a defensive first mentality.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
And then I thought the Jacksonville Jaguars, I thought they did a pretty good job, drafting Travis Hunter. The only thing I'm not questioning, but like just pondering is, Trevor Lawrence is the quarterback. I don't know. I thought it was a good pick. I just don't know how because I've never seen that chemistry before between Hunter and Lawrence. So neither of us have. So that's going to be an interesting combination. And then, they've got Travis Etienne in the backfield, but he's been getting injured recently, it seems like. So I don't really have a feel for the Jags just because they've just been inconsistent the past couple of years with injuries.
And I think the interesting storyline is going to be, Travis Hunter going to play DB, or is he going to play wide receiver?
Well, he claims he's going to play both, and he said if he doesn't, he won't play. But I highly doubt that.
We'll see the storyline.
Yeah.
Going forward, but switching our focuses, because I'm sure you're just excited to get to the college football aspect of this whole segment.
That's the mighty good stuff right there. We got to get to the.
So let's go ahead and start with that. So, what are some sleeper teams? What are some teams that you have that you think are going to do well, that you think to watch out for?
Yeah, so Texas Tech is definitely. I mean, they've got a stacked transfer portal, and they've really brought in some guys. I was hearing, I don't know if you know who Josh Pate is, but
they got Micah Hudson back too. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, they did. How funny is that? He transfers to A&M and then transfers back. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Gotta love this new.
You've gotta love it.
Era.
You gotta love it, right? But yeah, I think legitimately, Texas Tech has a really good shot if they're able to do what they're supposed to do, and they've got Morton back at quarterback. I believe it's going to be his senior year. He's technically a veteran in that Big 12 conference, so I don't know. Texas Tech can make some noise. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah, they got a lot of players.
The only thing I will say, though, is they lose Taj Brooks, so they're going to have to try and find their guy at running back, but I'm sure they'll find him.
Oh, yeah, they'll find a running back. I mean, they got Quentin Joyner from USC. We'll see what he does. I mean, honestly, I think Micah Hudson's going to find himself finally.
Yeah. Well, and I think when he when he entered the portal, people were saying that he wasn't getting as much attention. He wasn't getting the ball all too much, but I think that'll change this year.
I think so too, especially with a veteran quarterback who knows how to spread the ball a little bit.
Yeah.
But honestly, yeah, go ahead.
And honestly too, for Texas Tech, I think maybe you could be looking at maybe a 9-3 kind of team going into the Big 12 championship. Maybe. Actually, let me pull up their schedule here. Let's see here. Okay. So here's. Hang on. Wait. Oh, here we go. Okay. So Texas Tech. So this year, they play Arkansas Pine Bluff, that should be a blowout win. Kent State should be a win. Oregon State's an interesting one. It's in AT&T Stadium. I would say that's a win. Texas Tech at Utah, that'll be a tough one for sure. And then they have to play at Houston. That'll be in Houston. Kansas at Texas Tech. They play Arizona in Arizona. They play Oklahoma State in Lubbock. They got Kansas State on the road. BYU in Lubbock. UCF in Lubbock, and then West Virginia in West Virginia. So, I mean, realistically, I mean, if you're looking at their schedule, I mean, with the roster that they have, I mean, there's no reason why this team can't get to 8 or 9 wins.
I could probably see them going for one of the few teams that it could be a Big 12 title contender this year.
Yeah. I don't think they'll be a playoff contender, but I think they're definitely a conference championship contender.
For certain, for sure.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, when you look at those first 3 games, I mean, the chances of you going 3-0 or 2-1, maybe losing to Oregon State, which I don't see that happening. Being 3-0 or 2-1 is definitely reasonable.
I see them beating Arkansas Pine Bluff, Kent State. They're going to start about 3-0. They got off to a hot start last season and then sort of fell off.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, we'll honestly see.
And Oregon State hasn't been the same since they lost their head coach a couple of years ago in Uyunglele. So yeah, I think 3-0 would be the best start, and then it's that Utah game is that's going to be a tough one.
They don't play Baylor this year, so I mean
they don't. Yeah,
we don't get a free win this year. Beat them 59-35. You know, our quarterback then torched them, but
yeah. No, I think I mean realistically, I mean this team. I mean a lot of these games, a lot of the big 12 games are for them really at home. I mean they've got Oklahoma State at home. They weren't really good last year, but they got Oklahoma State. They've got Kansas at home. They've got BYU at home, and they've got UCF at home. So they've got some good games at home that they could really win. So I don't know. We'll see. Definitely a Big 12 contending team with the roster that they have. We'll just see if all goes according to plan.
Another team we mentioned was UCLA.
Yes, Mr.
Iamaleava.
Yeah, Nico Iamaleava.
Transferred out after having a turbulent exit from Tennessee.
I'm sure Tennessee fans are happy with that, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, because they got some kid named Jake Merlinger going to be starting for him. Former 5-star, I think, if I believe. Yeah, he was a 4-star. He's highly recruited.
All right.
But I think Nico sort of, I don't know, he lost money. That situation was very strange.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think UCLA is really going to do all that good. I mean, I think they're probably like a 7-5 team. 7-5 or 8-4.
I think it's an interesting team to look at just because of Nico. And their transfer portal class ranking is really getting some shining now with Nico coming along. So I think Nico could, if Nico really can move past this whole NIL negotiation incident, I think he very well could have a 30-touchdown season.
Yeah.
And sort of boost his draft stock, or maybe even leave from UCLA and go to the NFL. I mean, honestly, I completely think Nico can turn this UCLA program around, who's been struggling the past few seasons.
Or after this year, he hops into the portal again to keep improving his draft stock if he decided not to go, but that's just hypothetical.
Yep.
But, I mean, they have UNLV first game. Then
that could be a win, even though UNLV had a really good transfer portal class.
Yeah. And then they have New Mexico Lobos, should be 2-0. Northwestern, Penn State, Michigan State, Maryland, and they got Indiana, Nebraska, Ohio State, Washington, and USC.
You're looking at 2025, right? Utah. It says Utah is the first game, right?
Utah.
It said Utah was the
I'm sorry. Yes, Utah. Yeah.
I think Utah's solid, so I don't know. But Utah, I don't think really has a quarterback that I know of. Cam Rising finally
retired. After like an 8th year.
Thank you for going and getting a job. We're so proud of you.
I will say, though, that they have a 3-game stretch in which they could either go 0-3 or maybe find some way to win. They got to go to Indiana. They have Nebraska at home, and then they have to go to Ohio State. that's a very tough 3-game stretch. And
It is.
remember Nebraska last year. I mean, they were 5-1 out, But yeah, that's an extremely tough stretch. And then for them to have Penn State at home, I think really benefits them. I mean, because we saw USC nearly knock them off last year. Remember that game? I'm not saying that there's anything that's connected with that, but I definitely think that it's very good that they have that game at home. Because if it was
until Penn State proves me wrong, until they become dominant, they never really dominate games. Like in my opinion,
they just find ways to win.
I feel like there's very few games that they dominate. But if I have to be completely honest, Penn State is always, you can always look to upset Penn State. They're usually always weak, in my opinion. And until they prove me wrong, let us see. But I don't think Drew Allard is as amazing as everybody's just turning him out to be. I don't really think he's that great.
I think Penn State is I still think they're good. I mean, they got to the Big Ten championship last year. Although they lost to Ohio State, but who else did they beat? What was their strength of schedule? You also have to put in that factor.
Oh, they lost to Oregon.
Yeah, sorry. Well, and they lost to Oregon as well. Yeah,
they lost to Oregon in the Big Ten championship. Remember, Ohio State got beat by Michigan in the last week of the season.
Yeah, and then that little brawl at the end.
But yeah, like I said, I'd love to see Penn State win a Big Ten title. I don't think I've ever seen them do it in my lifetime.
Yeah. But for UCLA, I mean, very well could be 3-0 at the end of the day to start. And then at Northwestern, that should be a win. And then Penn State, I'll say that might be their first loss. And then at Michigan, I mean, this team could probably go 8-4, 7-5. That's kind of where I'm seeing them.
I think they're ceiling, yeah. But I think there's something to pay attention to, just to see how Nico plays on the field with this NIL scandal.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Now, if they can fully put the pieces together, which a UCLA team hasn't been able to do over the past couple of years, if they really do put the pieces together, Nico he just balls out and is winning games. Definitely a 10-2 kind of team, but I think
we'll see.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, and then moving on to the SEC. The Florida Gators are an interesting one to look at.
Yeah, and Billy Napier is still the head coach there.
But I think it's interesting just because of DJ Lagway and how he kind of turned their season around.
I mean, this team were they like 2-5 to start the year?
Something crazy like that.
They were
not very good, and then they plug in DJ Lagway over Graham Mertz, and suddenly, man, you got a spark here. You got all these wins and then a bowl game.
Well, I mean, remember last year, Florida played with a backup quarterback against Georgia. Just think if Lagway had played it. I mean, because Florida was winning that game for a little bit, and then Georgia finally started putting their foot on the gas and started going. But I mean, if they had Lagway in that game, which they did, that could have been a completely different story.
And I think this is honestly another really interesting thing. They have the 9th overall recruiting class.
Yeah. Well, Napier's always been a pretty good recruiter, especially at Florida. I mean, the past couple of years, he's been pretty good.
Yeah, Napier's done a really good job recruiting.
Yeah.
And he's constantly bringing in amazing talent. Mm-hmm. He got a 4-star receiver from UCLA that transferred in. I think this team is a sleeper team to win the SEC.
Interesting.
And I think they could really win the SEC if everything goes their way.
Well, I mean, looking at their schedule, I mean, they got LSU on the road. They play at Miami, which that'll be a huge one. Then they've got Texas coming into Gainesville. It'll be packed. Then they go to College Station. They face Mississippi State. Then that rivalry game with Georgia, and then they've got Kentucky, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and then Florida State. That 3-game, that maybe even 5-game stretch is going to be a tough one. I mean, Kentucky's been good, but they haven't. I mean, they're Kentucky.
I think they're going to beat Long Island. They're going to beat South Florida. LSU is going to be their first real test.
I think they'll probably lose to LSU just because it's in Death Valley.
I mean, and Garrett Nussmeier's a really solid veteran QB in the SEC as well.
And then, sorry, Florida fans, but I think here's what I think. I think they definitely win their first 2 games, and then if they don't, they're either going to lose to LSU and beat Miami, or beat LSU and lose to Miami.
I don't think Miami's as good as. I mean, they lost Cam Ward, Xavier Restrepo. I don't think they're that good.
Even with Carson Beck.
It's Carson Beck. He got carried at Georgia. If he gets off to a hot start, I will change my prediction, but I don't think Carson Beck is that good.
Yeah.
I think he's like Jake Fromm, very similar to Jake Fromm all those years ago, who just continues to consistently get carried by elite talent. And he's not as good as everybody's seeming him out to be.
Yeah, I agree. Because, last year, Beck was like one of the top candidates for the Heisman Trophy.
If I'm being completely and totally honest, I think he's overrated.
I'd say he's overrated. I agree.
Unless he has some amazing wide receivers at Miami that bail him out, I see Florida winning that game just because of their pure talent.
Okay. Well, not just because of Carson Beck, but if Florida were to lose that game, it's still a rivalry game, so there's still hot blood in that. And then, so I think they'll probably be 3-1, beating Miami, and then Texas will come in. That will be, if Florida can knock off Texas, not only will there be a field storm, but there's gonna be some Gatorade being thrown on Napier in a good way. And then they go to College Station. That'll be a tough game against A&M. And then Mississippi State and Gainesville, Georgia and Jacksonville, at Kentucky, at Ole Miss. Tennessee comes to town, and then they finish off with Florida State.
Yeah, I think they very well could win the SEC, like you said.
I think for them, LSU.
I see 9-3 as a ceiling.
I think they beat LSU. I think they lose to LSU. I think they lose to Texas. I think they lose to A&M. I actually think they beat Georgia, and then I think they. I think they beat Ole Miss, and Tennessee and Florida State. So we're looking at 1, 2, 3. 3 losses?
9-3.
Yeah, 9-3.
And that can sneak them into the playoffs in this new era.
Yeah, honestly, if they're still in the position to win, because if 3 of their losses come to LSU, Texas, and A&M, then you're talking about a 9-3 team who would be 5-3 in conference play. So maybe an SEC championship, but to really put their spot in there, I think they would probably need to maybe win one more game, like maybe trying to beat Texas at home. Because I'm looking at that Texas game, that's a prime opportunity for Florida to really, send a message to everybody in the SEC saying, "Hey, we ain't messing around here. We're here, we're legit, and we're ready to take off."
I think so too. And only time will tell, of course.
Yeah, and the only reason why I say Florida over Georgia is because I don't know. I'm unsure about Georgia's quarterback situation, and they lost. They always reload every year, but this is one of the first years I'm kind of unsure about Georgia and what they've got.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can get to 10-2, losing to LSU and A&M, not being biased here, but 10-2 and 6-2 in conference play, that could get you in the title game.
Yeah, and like I said, only time will tell. I'm throwing a hard one at you.
Curveball.
I'm throwing a random one at you. This is something I didn't talk about in the pre-show talks. What is a group of 5 team you can see making a run?
A group of 5 team. Into the playoffs?
It's a group of 5 team you can see that can make the playoffs.
I don't know.
Let's see. You know what? I think Boise State can do it again. Just because they got a returning quarterback who made the playoffs. Maddox Madison is going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I would also agree with that. Boise State, just because now they understand how to get to the playoffs and
they got a great coach.
Yeah, I'd take Boise State.
Yeah, and obviously I don't know if their schedule's going to be super hard, but I just see them doing well. And in other sports news, the Mavericks jumped 10 spots to get the right to draft Cooper Flagg, which is leaving many to say, is this NBA lottery system rigged?
What do you think?
I just find it kind of fishy, Anthony Davis, when he was on the Pelicans, got traded to the Lakers, and then the Pelicans got the right to draft Zion. and then just sort of following the cycle, Paul George got traded. Not Paul George. Anthony Davis, Chris Paul got traded one time, and then New Orleans got the chance to draft Anthony Davis. So it's sort of confusing, with all the moving pieces,
Yeah.
Is the league rigged? Are we trading superstars to get an even better superstar?
Well, I mean, the general managers can't really be trusted at Dallas because, Doncic is gone, and I don't think they'll ever get over that.
No, but Cooper Flag is kind of a nice gift
addition.
from the. Thank you to the NBA for giving us a nice little gift. I really appreciate that. So thank you, Adam Silver, for that, Mr. League Commissioner. Thank you. I'm able to watch basketball again. But that team is going to be scary. Kyrie Irving, Anthony Davis, and Cooper Flag. So yeah, there's that. But let's see here.
Is that pretty much all of it?
Is there anything else that really caught your eye in the sports world recently?
Oh, I just want to bring this up because I think it's hilarious. But I've been seeing all over social media calling A&M Texas 8-4. I think that's kind of funny. It's kind of ironic, but
yeah, it is.
It is what it is. Actually, I watched a YouTube video of I think it was titled. What was it titled? It was titled like "and him" or whatever in college football, and there were two tapes of it was West Virginia beating Texas in Austin, and then it was Michael Crabtree beating Texas again in 2008. It was hilarious. I was just like, man, Texas talks trash to a lot of their rival teams, but they've got some issues on their own sometimes. They just can't find a way to pull it out. But not trying to throw any shade or anything. I just wanted to say that.
I'm seeing a lot of
as an A&M fan.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of hot takes around the internet. We'll sort of start this little hot take segment because why not? What is your hot take? What is a hot take or two that you have for next college football season?
I think there's going to be, like always, I mean, every year, I think there's going to be teams who come in a little overrated, ranked inside the top 10, who actually fall. One matchup I'm really interested to see, I believe LSU goes to Clemson this year to go play them. And I think it's going to be a nighttime game. That'll be very intriguing. That Texas-Ohio State game will be intriguing. I think we'll see a change of teams in the playoffs. I'm interested to see how Alabama bounces back after going 9-4. And yeah, I think that, and also too, I mean, I think there's going to be more SEC teams than there were last year in the playoff because of trying to, realignment and trying to put in more teams. Because I don't think it's this year, but I think in a couple of years they want to extend it to 16 teams for the playoffs, which I'm not. Well,
they won't do it this year. But I got a crazy hot take for you. The winner of the Baylor-Auburn game will make the playoffs.
Really? How so?
So you think about Auburn, they're pretty solid. Think about Baylor, they're returning a lot of production.
I don't see Auburn as a contender next year.
If Baylor wins, I think it sort of proves them, we're a good team this year. Stop sleeping on us.
Yeah,
we got a guy who's in Heisman talks right now. One of the best quarterbacks of the last college football season.
Yeah, but I mean Auburn. I mean that'd be a good win. I mean Auburn they're not great,
I mean maybe Auburn. I think they could fall under the radar too. But and then another hot take I think is I think a quarterback is going to win the Heisman. I don't know which one. But it's gonna be a quarterback this year instead of a position player.
Let me guess. Arch Manning?
I do not think Arch Manning's gonna win the Heisman.
Cade Klubnik? No. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, in your dreams.
Yeah.
I think a quarterback to really watch out for, especially in the Big 12, is Connor Wigman. It'd be interesting to see what he does.
Yeah, at Houston.
Connor Wigman. Outside of that, I do not know. I don't really have any more hot takes. Hot take, Miami won't make a bowl game. There's my hot take.
Oh, really? Okay. Miami not making a bowl game, and then Mario Cristobal gets fired.
Yeah, that's a hot take. That's the hot take.
Yeah. Well, another hot take I have is I don't think Sam Pittman's going to be the next head coach after this year for Arkansas.
I think he's going to get fired. Okay.
I think he is. Yeah.
All right, and that was this episode of the Holy Huddle. If y'all have not already, like, comment, and subscribe. If Drew doesn't have anything to say, I'm out. Peace.
The Holy Huddle, this edition, Drew and Ethan sign off.